Hello and welcome everyone to our March 2022 Stellar Spotlight. Today is a fabulous day and we're so glad you could all join us for this. Today we are going to be talking with Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith has been a great friend and supporter of STEAMSPACE and our Cities in Space events and our Academy from the beginning. He's been a speaker, a mentor, a judge, even an exhibitor for hands-on exhibits at Cities in Space. And I mean, needless to say, let's just say we love Jeff. And we're so happy that you could be here with us today. So Jeff, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you could be here. I want to talk a little bit about you before I let you talk to us all about yourself as well. So
got it.
Everyone, Jeff is a project manager for Ball Aerospace in Broomfield, Colorado. Wonderful. He also oversees Ball's summer interns on site. He's active in the space community for years. And Jeff has volunteered for and worked with numerous space organizations, including ours, as we know, and the Space Frontier Foundation, National Space Society, the Space Finance Group, Mars World. He's a member of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and also a member of the Space Frontier Foundation and National Space Society. Jeff organized and hosted space startups at the Satellite 2017 and 2018 conference on behalf of the Space Frontier Foundation. He's collaborated with the Integrated Space Plan and served as a judge for AIAA's 2017 Rocky Mountain Student Paper Conference and is on the National Space Society's Ambassador Committee. Wow. What else did I miss, Jeff? Because that's a lot.
I think that's about it. And you know, of course, before we begin, I got to get the legalese out of the way that everything that we're going to be discussing today is my opinion, and that it doesn't reflect, you know, hasn't been reviewed or approved or, you know, vetted by Ball Aerospace. So it's just me talking on behalf of myself to all of you future space leaders out there.
Well, and yes, thank you for getting all that out of the way. I'm really glad you said that.
Got to get the disclaimer out of there.
And that's one thing we really love about our Stellar Spotlights when we get to speak with industry professionals like you. We get to hear your personal opinions, your personal dreams, and your personal story. Because one thing we really, really believe in with STEAMSPACE, as well as this Academy launch we've done this year, is we want all our students to have access to professionals like you to not only learn about what's happening in space today and also where we've been and where we're going, but it's also to be like, hey, I'm really inspired by Jeff Smith. Maybe I'll go to college and study what he's studying right now, and maybe I'll go to work for a company like Ball Aerospace. You know, this is part of our mission, is to give accessibility to everyone, everywhere. If you are ages 2nd grade through 12th grade, we just keep trickling down younger and younger, which is great. But we want them to know that this future is available to all of them. So it's exciting. And
absolutely,
this Stellar Spotlight will be added to our website under the Academy, under our Stellar Spotlights. And starting next month in April, we're going to also have our first featured student spotlight. And we're going to feature a student that's competed with us since 8th grade. And now he's at his 1st year in college. And he's gone into aerospace. And that's so amazing. It's exciting, so exciting that you can inspire our littles and that they can inspire each other. So, okay, without any further ado, I could talk for an hour, as we all know. Anyone who's known me knows I could talk forever. So I want to hear about you now, Jeff. We all want to hear about you. Tell us a bit of your story and how you got here. What is your origin story, Jeff Smith, and why space?
Yeah, so it's been a long road, and I didn't take the traditional path, I guess you would say, of, you know, majoring in aerospace engineering. So let me back up way up towards the somewhat beginning. back when I was in first grade, which was many, many years ago. One of the first memories that I have was it was our first grade teacher, Mrs. Oshina. I still remember her name. She took us to the library, and it was our job to, go find a book. So go pick out a book that we wanted to check out from the library. And I remember walking around, didn't really know, what it was I was gonna, check out. Just kind of like running through all the aisles, like seeing if anything interests me. And I remember her saying, "Hey, you have, 1 minute, hurry up and check out your book." And I remember, like walking down this aisle and seeing this picture of, I didn't know it at the time, but it was an astronaut floating in space. And I was like, that looks really cool. Let me go check out that book. So I grab it and, take it up to the librarian. And she's like, "Oh, this one, good choice." And she pulls out the, the library card where you had to check out and sign your name. And as I was signing my name, I realized that I had signed my name previous times numerously. It was something I didn't really remember, but apparently my my name was on there. I checked it out multiple times before. So when people ask me, when did you first get interested in space? I literally don't know, because I don't remember the first time that I checked out that book. So that was just kind of, like my very first memory of first getting interested in space, is seeing that astronaut, floating on the cover of that book and being excited about it and then checking it out. So.
Well, I gotta say, you had me at library card. The days when we signed and dated our library cards that we checked out. Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that's a great, very early starter point. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Yeah, so then from there, there were just additional experiences that happened in my life that kind of built on top of each other and led me onto the path that I'm on now. One of those was back when my grandpa and my grandma bought me my first telescope, which I actually was able to find a picture for you. So hopefully everyone can see that there. So using that telescope out in the, the front yard, I was actually able to find the Andromeda Galaxy, which this was before the telescopes had all the fancy digital buttons where you just, you point in the coordinates and it just takes you to exactly what you're looking for. This is back when you actually had to, kind of search around and fidget with the dials and see what was out there. And I didn't realize it out at the time, but in my front yard, I actually found the Andromeda Galaxy, which is why I keep a picture of it on my wall to this day. So it's kind of exciting for me. And then many years ago, back when my grandpa passed away, I actually found this magnet in our garage, this NASA magnet. And it kind of made me think about how many times did I walk past that magnet and not realize it. Maybe it was subliminal messaging, and that corner sort of got in my head and kind of led me down this path that I was on. So then from there, let's fast forward to when I was in college. I actually started out in a physics degree, but because I was doing Air Force ROTC at the time, they wanted me to graduate within 4 years. Doing the physics degree was actually going to take me 5 years, or longer, because I was, working 2 jobs at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to switch my major to communications. That way I had a guaranteed job after college. Went into the Air Force as an officer. I did not get a space and missile officer slot, but I did end up at Peterson Air Force Base, which was the headquarters of Air Force Space Command, and now, of course, it's part of the Space Force. During that time, I actually got my master's degree in space operations management, which was pretty awesome because I kind of got to learn about how the rockets and the satellites actually work. Learned about orbital mechanics and how do they actually stay up in orbit going around the Earth. So it was just a really awesome time during that time. Then right before I got out of the Air Force, I started going to every space conference that I knew of, looking for looking for a job and just doing like networking and kind of like pretty much, I went to a lot of them actually. And I got some more pictures here I can share with you. But also during that time, right when I graduated from college was like 2007, 2008, right before the the housing financial crisis. So I kind of had that in my mind as well, as that I kind of, as if I couldn't get into space right away, I wanted to get into finance, to hopefully help people out with their finances, learn more about that particular industry. So I ended up working for JP Morgan, then I went on to Fidelity, and then eventually TIA CREF. And it seemed like every time summer came around, I would always like, apply to more space companies and go to more space conferences, because that's kind of like what I really, really wanted to get into. And then eventually, it just kind of like wasn't working out. It seemed like every summer came around, and I'd apply to all these space companies, do all of this, outreach at these space conferences, and just nothing was working out. So I basically decided that I was just going to get out of the financial industry and focus on getting, a space job, just space or bust. That was my kind of goal. So I actually ended up working as a blackjack dealer up at a casino at nights. And then during the day, I was doing a ton of volunteer work to get that volunteer work on my resume. So actually, when I applied to Ball Aerospace, I had a 2-page resume. One page was my work experience from the finance industry, and also my background in the Air Force. The other page was nothing but volunteer work from some of the organizations that you listed previously. So that's kind of how I was able to get my foot in the door. And I've been at Ball for the past going on 5 years now, and it's just been great ever since then. So that's kind of my my background story, and that's how I made it here today.
That is so interesting. I love the blackjack in the midst of it. It reminds me of when I was going to school and working night shifts to put myself through school. We all have those tricky spots sometimes, and you're not the first person I've interviewed and talked about with the space industry who says literally, I didn't take the traditional path to get here.
Right.
There seems to be a lot of meanderers. However, when you talk about it, I'm like, wow, the space industry, it's this massive industry. It seems like your experience with finance would also be equally valuable to all of your space experience too, when you say, because how large is this? It's like $1 trillion industry, or I hear it all the time, but I never like take it in. It's too large of a number for my brain to take it.
Yeah, exactly right. And I was kind of going down that path to begin with. So my background was in supply chain logistics, and as I was getting that finance experience, that's when I did the volunteer work for the Space Frontier Foundation. That's how I got involved with the satellite conference and this startup space event, which was basically like a small business plan, entrepreneurial pitch event. So I was kind of doing that before I got hired at Ball. And then I found out after I got hired at Ball, Ball was actually one of the sponsors for that. So it was just amazing how it all kind of came together and kind of worked together there.
Yeah, we see so much serendipity and synchronicity in this industry. There's so much overlap and connectedness. It's very exciting. I mean, really, I feel like we've been seeing so much more of that since like 2011, when the shuttle closed down, after we all like dried our tears. We've seen so much collaboration and partnership and overlap between, commercial and governmental, all these different organizations banding together to push us further and faster, right, towards space exploration and space settlement. I feel like this is one of the most exciting times for young people in particular. Well, before we dive into young people, because I have a lot to ask you about that, tell us a little bit about Ball Aerospace, if you would, and what are some of Ball Aerospace's focuses and to help push humanity, right, towards space research, development, and exploration?
Yeah, so the way I like to describe it to any, young person that's asking is I say that I get to hang out with my friends and I get to help put satellites in space. So that's kind of the simplest high level way to explain it. My actual job as a project manager is I manage the scope, schedule, and the budget, to make sure that everything's on time and under budget. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's really just being a part of the team that helps, put those satellites up there. Um, some of my favorite that I can think of off the top of my head would probably be, I know there was the Ralph camera that took the picture of Pluto, which I've certainly shared with your students before. I know there was a camera on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter that takes like these amazing pictures of Mars. And then just recently, which is going to be really exciting here in a few months, is going to be the James Webb Space Telescope. So Ball was actually the one that did the mirrors on that telescope, and I'm just really looking forward to that one because that's going to be just amazing. It's been a long time coming, and it's safely finally deployed and it's unfolded. That's like the latest that I've read on that, and now they're just calibrating the mirrors to get the image super crystal clear. And yeah, that's some of my favorites there.
That's awesome. And I didn't know all of that about Ball. Yeah, it was a very exciting winter holiday for us on this side of the world. Those of you who celebrate Christmas, I know that it was a very exciting Christmas for you. If you're a space enthusiast, the James Webb is incredibly exciting to us. So thank you for that. Now let's talk about youth. So those of you who are watching or in the audience, some of the most recent work Jeff has done with us is really supported us on this Academy inaugural year. We launched this fall in 2021. We're already in 2022, crazy. With the rise, with the rise of the pandemic and so many teachers and students having to go virtual, and then, still not quite letting up this year, we've always wanted to have this academy in addition to our leadership summits, our large flagship event at Cities in Space, where we have, as Jeff knows, 500 plus kids come into Austin, Texas to compete. We wanted to have something steady that would offer more projects and lessons and engagement for students. And the Academy was our solution. So we've been hosting multiple 7-week-long micro challenges. And when we return to our in-person Cities in Space in 2023, knock on something, these will also act in preparation for these students. So we had 2 micro challenges already completed as of 2 days ago. I can't believe it. We had our Young Pioneer Cities in Space micro challenge, which was for 3rd and 4th grade students globally. We had expected, well, honestly, we had hoped for 6 to 10 teams. Since it was our inaugural year, we were like, hopefully 6 to 10 teams, and we had 25 teams internationally competing. And then we also had our middle school, high school micro challenge with the Academy named Footprint. And this was on sustainability and partnered with Houston Tillotson University here in Austin, Texas, as well as the Dumpster Project. And that was about creating closed and quasi-closed off-world regenerative living systems. And these kids, they get better every year, Jeff, and they just blow my mind. So absolutely. Jeff was a speaker for our Young Pioneer Cities in Space, as well as a judge, and he continues to help us with those things. But you've been getting to watch these kids evolve through the years with STEAMSPACE and just everywhere. Technology is amazing, and they've all they've all adapted so quickly. I remember when I first started teaching 3D printing, I was kind of learning as I taught. I was one of those early adopters. And, you know, what would take me like 2 weeks to figure out, you know, it would take a 9-year-old like 20 minutes. And I see a lot of the same things happening when they're learning about space now. There's so much resource that they can come to. But these are our future leaders in space. These kids sitting in the classroom right now, raising their hands, asking questions. What do you foresee as they move out of the classroom and into professionalism and careers in space? Do you believe this is an exciting time for youth in space, and why? If you do, why is it so exciting for them?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really exciting because there's just a lot of things that have happened in the industry over the past, decade, or at least in my lifetime, that I never thought that I would see. I never thought I would see a rocket, be reusable and land on, its tail end. I've never, thought we would see the type of images that we've gotten back from, some of the satellites. Picture of Pluto, for example. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I never thought we would see, a picture of a black hole. Like that's just kind of crazy. Just like all of the things that are happening in the industry are just really exciting. And you kind of think about, these students that are, in the classroom, like when they graduate high school or even when they graduate college, where's the industry going to be at? We'll probably be back on the moon by that time, with the Artemis program.
I'm crossing. I'm crossing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We'll probably have, at least one, if not a few, commercial space stations, being run privately, with the help of, NASA, of course. So that's going to be really exciting. And then, who knows, like where the satellite technology will go from there as well. Yeah, so it's just a really exciting time. I kind of wish I was back in their shoes, again, to do it all over again, of course. But yeah, it's just really exciting to see where the industry is going. And I definitely envy all of the young ones that are watching this, because it's just an exciting time to be in the space industry.
Yeah, and so many people who I talk to in this industry, including myself, are like, gosh, to get to be doing it now, no barking, dog. So when we think of some of the challenges for this next generation and what they will be facing when thinking about being in this industry and moving into possibly living off world and the great probability of settling space and other planets, what do you think some of the largest challenges these young people will face as they grow into this world?
So I do see some challenges, but I'm also kind of hopeful at the same time. So let me give you an example of one challenge that I see, which would be, let's call it automation. So let me give you an example. Throughout my career, starting from my first job that I had back in high school, I used to drive cars at a car auction. Okay, so I used to take the cars at the dealership, couldn't sell. They would take them to the auction. They would sell them there. Well, I got to be that guy that got to drive all these different cars back and forth to the auction. Now we have cars that can basically almost drive themselves. So it's really it's kind of changing there. I also used to work at a bookstore, selling people physical books in like a retail brick and mortar location. Now we have Amazon for that. I also worked as a server at a restaurant when I was in college. Now we have Uber Eats that can deliver the food straight for you. So I'm kind of, on one hand, concerned about this, technology, AI, automation, machine learning. The other time, I'm a bit hopeful for what that technology can provide, which is why I gave the robots in space presentation a few years back, because I thought like robotics is a great way to introduce the students to mechanical, software, and electrical engineering. And so maybe
that
if
was
they
a great talk, by the way.
Thank you. I'll have to do it again sometime. I think I have a few new ideas for it.
Yeah.
So I kind of gave that speech because I kind of want to introduce them to that sort of technology early on, so that they can kind of learn from it and hopefully adapt with it as the industry goes forward. And then a few things that are super hopeful looking towards the future is just like the amount of like collaboration that we have going on. When I was growing up, there was no way we could sit here and talk across the country on a video conferencing call. I mean, that just didn't exist, back when I was even in high school, probably. So I think the collaborativeness is definitely going to be one of the advantages going forward, and hearing from all of these new ideas that are out there that will definitely help spark innovation and entrepreneurship, and just new improvements in technology. So all of that is really exciting, looking at like the positive end. But yeah, I think there will be some challenges going forward. We can look at the past, few 2 years, right? But I think in everyone's career, you're going to face some sort of challenges. I forget who said it, but someone said, if you want to reach for the stars, you can't be afraid of the dark. So I thought that was kind of a really good quote there. And
I love that quote.
Yeah, thank you. I'm like, I think I heard it at like a conference one time, but yeah, I really like that quote because there's going to be more challenges going forward. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, like we teach our interns and our engineers to be problem solvers. No matter what the problem you face, you kind of have to break it down step by step and solve the problem that's presented to you.
Yeah, I think of like the old action movies where some hero stands there strong and says, failure is not an option. And I always think, no, failure is mandatory. Like we have to like fail and get up and do it again, fail, get up and do it again. And this is how we perfect things. I mean, Edison, Wright brothers, Da Vinci, I mean, you can go on and on. Like we have to be flexible problem solvers and to really support this mission that we all have together, right?
Yeah. Thinking of another thing is that back when I did the Startup Space Business Plan competition at the Satellite Conference, one of the things that I said was that, you may have, a tough day where, let's say, your rocket explodes, going into orbit. That's a bad day. You may have something where you have a budget cut, or you don't meet your funding. There's a lot of potentially bad days out there. But those that really make a difference in the industry are those that just never give up and never stop reaching for the stars. So that's just one other thing I wanted to add there.
That was lovely. You might have just like actually jumped ahead and answered my last question, but I have other things to say. Before we start closing up our spotlight today, I'm curious. I mean, what's next for Jeff Smith? I mean, you've been conquering the world of space and finance, and now, you've been at Ball Aerospace and doing amazing there. I mean, what do you foresee on your trajectory towards the stars? What else do you want to do in the world of space?
Oh, that's a really good question. The first thing that comes to my mind is I would actually like to go to space. I think, it's probably conceivable in my lifetime that it would be, at least like a nice, suborbital flight, at least cross the Kármán line and, eventually get my civilian space wings. Like that would be amazing. And then I also know about some companies that will even like send your ashes to space like after you're dead. So like dead or alive, one way or another, like I want to go to space. So I think I've crossed that, check that one off the list.
That's either very morbid or very awesome. I'm not
preferably alive. I'd definitely like to go
ideally
when I can still
alive.
experience. Yes, exactly. And then also like I'm no longer considered like a young professional anymore. I'm kind of like in this mid-career range. So I kind of like to continue giving back to, the younger students, the younger, from elementary to college, even some of the interns, like if there's anything I can do to, help out, that's kind of what I want to continue doing and going forward and helping to, inspire the youth to be a part of this amazing industry.
Well, that's a wonderful continuation of your story, and they need you. They need people just like you to inspire them and mentor them and push them forward in a good way, a loving way. Though we have competitions all the time with STEAMSPACE, I mean, we really believe in that sense of global community and creating a movement, to build the pipeline for industry. Yes, people win at the competitions, but I mean, students all the time will reach out and be like, what's another team, in the United States or somewhere else in the world that we can connect with and practice with and prepare with? Like, we want that kind of connectivity. And I think it's very essential if we're going to actually bring multiple countries together to settle space, right?
Right.
So, but people like you, Jeff, are really inspiring and good for these kids to be working with. Okay, so if there is anything you would like to say to students sitting in classes right now and watching your stellar spotlight, what would it be?
I just want to say, like, if I can do it, you can do it. So I have a few more show and tells for you. So this is a picture that's on my LinkedIn, which I realize I should update it because I'm kind of getting a wee bit older, but I really like this picture because this was back when I was faking it before I fake it till you make it is the way the saying goes. And this picture was when I was at the New Space conference at the Museum of Flight, and this was right after I got out of the finance industry and decided I was going to, do space whether or not I was getting paid for it. So that's back when I decided I was going to go be a blackjack dealer at night and do nothing but space-related volunteer work during the day until I got a space job. And thankfully, eventually Ball hired me. It only took me a year, but it was definitely well worth it and quite the adventure. And then I keep this image with me as well, just to remind me to never stop reaching for the stars. And one of the organizations that I volunteered for was the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. Volunteered there for I think it was like 2.5 years. I was like a galaxy guide in their Space Odyssey exhibit. And when I decided that I was gonna, when I got the job at Ball, I was like, okay, I can't keep volunteering here during the weekends. But before I left the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, I was able to donate this picture to them. So now this is like hopefully forever in their volunteer center that says never stop reaching. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If I can do it, you can do it. It may take you a while. I will say it's a lot easier to get into the industry if you have a STEM degree. And definitely don't forget to throw the A in there as well. Don't forget the arts, because that's where the innovation comes from. Um, absolutely.
Did you say the A with
Yeah,
STEM? Yeah.
yeah, so don't forget the A, because that's where the arts comes from. That's where the innovation, the creativity comes from. So yeah, and that's it. And keep signing up for Holly's competitions with Cities in Space, and hopefully see you all up there one day.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful last words of advice. And I got to say, the fake it till you make it. I just had a long conversation with some people about that. And that's another great talk we should have one day. Like that's a 2-hour interview all in itself. We should just have a panel of who faked it till they made it, because there's a lot of wisdom in stepping into that. So if our viewers would like to, I don't know, follow you, look you up, or even if it's possible, reach out to you with a question, is there a place they could find you, Jeff?
Well, I've gotten rid of most of my social media lately because I want to spend more time living my life instead of watching others, live out theirs.
What?
So
Who are you?
I know. I'm like, how many hours a day do I spend watching TikTok videos? I'm like, this is the problem. I need to not do this anymore. So I have other things to focus on. But I still have my LinkedIn account. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn.
And y'all have now seen that classic photo twice. There's no facial hair on that photo.
I might have to, I don't know. I might have to update it eventually here. I think it's about time. So.
Well, it happens. Well, again, thank you so much, Jeff. And this friend's Jeff Smith with Ball Aerospace and a beloved friend to STEAMSPACE Education Outreach. Now, if you'd like to know more about what we're doing with STEAMSPACE, Cities in Space, and our academy, you can always look us up at steam-space.org. You can also find us on Facebook at Cities in Space, on Instagram at Steaming for Space, Twitter as well, and YouTube. You can also look us up on LinkedIn, but that would be under my name, Holly Malier, CEO and founder of STEAMSPACE Education Outreach. Reach out to us, jump in on our next events, and we will be hosting these Stellar Spotlights every month, at least for the academic year. And they will be free resources for you on our academy site. So until then, be well. Jeff, thank you.
Thank you.
And